the Backyard Dog taking on the veteran's veteran, Don Lee, if you will. We'll see. It's a newcomer versus a very old veteran here at AZW.
Old. he's really old. He's what, 55 now?
So, but first we're taking a look at Backyard Dog, of course, hailing from Eva Beach, making his way to the ring, hearing the applause from the YNI crowd out here.
You know, I'm not too familiar with the Backyard Dog, but you know what? He looks like a pretty tough guy in that ring right now, sucking up to the crowd. You gotta love that with wrestling.
And of course, Don Lee up next. We'll take a look at him.
From Philadelphia.
But you know what?
Here he is, the Rocker, Don Lee.
First, Rocker Don Lee may have some trouble making his way to the ring. Takes him a while. And there he is.
You know, in all due respect, you know, to the Rocker Don Lee, you know, 55. He's what, just as old as Ric Flair, and he's still doing this. And you gotta love a guy and admire a guy who keeps on doing this night after night, and basically doing what he loves, man.
Of course, Rocker Don Lee, also the self-proclaimed sexiest wrestler in Hawaii, now entering the ring to take on Backyard Dog. Another newcomer versus a veteran match here we have.
Yeah. How do you like that smarmy music, Dave?
It's not bad. It fits him very well. Of course, the ladies going wild for Rocker Don Lee as he loses the vest here.
Some applause there by the audience. Crowd favorite, I guess.
And here we go. 10-minute time limit on this match. Rocker Don Lee against Backyard Dog. Both gentlemen getting ready as the referee checks them for any foreign objects. Of course, you're accustomed to the foreign objects not being checked for the hardcore, for Hawaii's first hardcore legend, if you will.
Yeah, that's Don, all right. You know, just really getting into it right now, having fun. That's what I mean. Look at him.
All right, and here we go. We are underway here in Waianae. Of course, Rocker Don Lee against Backyard Dog. So far, of course, we know a lot about Don Lee and his history with DDB. You want to go over that for a little bit?
It's like, how can I put this? Whitney Houston and Bobby Brown. They keep on breaking up and making up, and apparently they had a little scuffle again during a TV taping where Don Lee was whooped by DDB, the boss man himself, the guy that signs the checks.
There goes, here we go, Rocker Don Lee toying with Backyard Dog. Backyard Dog just trying to get into the match. Don Lee just toying with him and playing to the crowd, as he always does. Don Lee might be the most entertaining, if not the oldest wrestler here in the AZW.
Yeah, you know, I gotta agree with that.
The two lock up. Don Lee putting Backyard Dog into the corner. Referee counting, make sure. There we go, Don Lee breaking that hold, playing to the crowd once again, and hearing it from the crowd. Of course, the long-noted history, Rocker Don Lee against our owner here, DDB. And as you said, Whitney Houston, Bobby Brown.
Whitney Houston and Bobby Brown.
Exactly.
No doubt, no doubt.
Backyard Dog now taking the advantage, putting Don Lee into the corner, referee with the count. And of course, the release there by Backyard Dog.
I love these veteran moves. This is what wrestling's on. And there it is. The
Kick to the midsection, and that low blow taking out Backyard Dog to the head to the turnbuckle. Rocker Don Lee with the advantage.
Did you expect anything else from Don Lee? Anything else?
And those hard right fists right to the midsection of Backyard Dog. Taking a little time to recover. Don Lee strutting around the ring there.
Well, he knows his job. His job is to entertain these people who pay their hard-earned greenback. Oh!
Rocker Don Lee with those hard chops right to the chest of Backyard Dog.
You got somewhat Gaddafi there.
And Backyard Dog returning the favor to Don Lee. Don Lee now crying in pain. Two lock up there in the middle of the ring. Don Lee with the headlock on Backyard Dog.
he basically had to muscle in that headlock because the size advantage of the Backyard Dog, it's a clear size advantage.
For size advantage and youth on the size of Backyard Dog here. Old veteran move there by Don Lee. Setting him down on the mat. Quick cover, 1, 2, a 2 count, and shoulders up by Backyard Dog.
No, originally the Backyard Dog was supposed to take on the Metal Maniac, who isn't here due to an injury. So we hope he's doing well tonight.
Of course, the Backyard doing more than very eye gouge by Don Lee. Choke against the ropes. Referee with the count. Rocker Don Lee, not the most agile of our wrestlers, but the most crafty.
Is that like a nice way of calling him old?
Yeah.
Crafty.
Backyard Dog with those hard chops. Here we go, sending Rocker Don Lee to the opposite corner. Oh, and a big splash in the corner. Rocker Don Lee stumbling on his feet. We're set up by Backyard Dog. Power move.
Beautiful belly to belly. Beautiful. Nicely executed. That was a crappy ass pin, though. You know.
Maybe Backyard Dog showing some of the confidence that Rocker Don Lee was showing earlier in the match. Leg drop there from the corner, right on the neck of Rocker Don Lee. Referee, of course, checking to see if he's okay.
Look, I know he's crafty, but, you know, at least hook the guy's leg. You know what I mean? Hook the guy's leg. Just clubbing blows to the back of the Rocker Don Lee. And is he out? No, he's back up, somewhat up.
Rocker Don Lee with that low blow to Backyard Dogs, I guess you could say.
Got him in that little chain there.
Here we go, Rocker Don Lee sending Backyard Dog against the ropes. Big clothesline. Send him right to the mat. Let's see if Don Lee goes for the cover. Nope, taking him back up. More punishment by Rocker Don Lee here.
It's like a nice Irish whip to the ropes. Kick to the belly. And a stunner.
Looks like we may have some interference here coming into the ring.
It's Rage. It's Rage.
Rage stopping the cover, ringing the bell. Referee calling for the bell. DDB also making his way into the ring. Of course, don't forget the history of these two, Rocker Don Lee and DDB. DDB, and looks like Rage taking it to Rocker Don Lee now.
It's Whitney and Brownie.
I don't know what that was by DDB, but it looks like it hurt Rocker Don Lee. Setting up for his finisher right here.
It's a Texas cloverleaf, definitely. Made famous by Dean Malinkos.
Of course, DDB's version called the one-liner.
Let's get some help out here, please. Come on.
DDB and Rage in the center of the ring. They really didn't do anything, though. This match now a disqualification, so no winners here.